Sup? Today, we're talking timing, we're talking camshafts, and we're talking air-fuel ratio. I don't have an example for that one.
Stick around for a little education to watch me struggle, break a key component, and a satisfying Vanos repair.
I don't know about you, but I need to understand how something works before I can fix it. Every camshaft has a profile, and this profile determines how much and for how long the intake and exhaust valves will remain open for. At a bird's eye view, this is what allows your engine to inhale fresh air and exhale exhaust. This is how most internal combustion engines work. The problem is, the profile of a cam is very specifically tied to an engine RPM. As you deviate from this RPM, you're losing the optimal air-fuel ratio and you're sacrificing on either power or efficiency. So imagine this. You're in the mountains, you're on a track, and you're really pushing it, right? The RPM climbs, you want to hear the noise, vroom, 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 bumping. But the valves are connected to the camshafts, which are connected to the timing chain, which is driven by the crankshaft, which is driven by the movement of the pistons. As everything's moving so much faster, the valves for both intake and exhaust are actually open for a shorter period of time, which is super counterintuitive because your engine is breathing less at a time where you want it to breathe the most. Of course, one way to address this is to get bigger cams, something with a higher lift and wider duration. It gives you a sick cam noise, and it lets your engine breathe better at higher RPM. What's the problem, right? Well, the problem comes in at low RPM because now your valves are open for longer, which is bringing in more air at low RPM when the engine doesn't really need it. But the engine needs to compensate for that increased air by also increasing the amount of fuel that gets added to the mixture. Now, this leads to a very inefficient engine where both your gas mileage and your torque will suffer. Now, there are a multitude of solutions for this very specific problem. And we'll start at everyone's favorite, VTEC, baby! And I think it is a law that I have to make the noise because you can't talk about VTEC without going, BWAP! BWAP! VTEC functions off of oil pressure, which is driven by engine RPM. So in a VTEC camshaft, there's a third lobe right there in the middle, and this lobe has an increased lift and duration compared to the others. Under normal driving situations, this engine is driven off of the smaller cams. But when the oil pressure gets high enough, a pin is engaged and it allows the engine to drive off of that third lobe, increasing the amount of air that the engine can get and the amount of exhaust the engine can exhale at high RPM, right when you need it. Now, technically, this is better because you have a cam profile for low RPM and you have a cam profile for high RPM. But to our problem earlier, this is not covering the exact RPM or the exact air-fuel ratio needs of the engine. It's just two cam profiles, one for low, one for high. But there's a spectrum in between there that's not being addressed. One of the coolest technologies comes from, no surprise to anyone, Koenigsegg, where they patented their free valve technology. And this technology is something I really do hope trickles down to consumer level cars because it increases fuel efficiency by up to 30%, or at least those are the claims. And it allows the valves to be independently controlled by electronic actuator instead of camshafts. So as you can imagine, the free valve name means that these are not tied to a camshaft at all. Instead, as I mentioned, they're driven by an electronically controlled actuator, one for each valve. So no matter the RPM, no matter the engine needs or the driving circumstances, the ECU decides how much do I want to open this valve, how long do I want to open this valve, and it creates for perfect air-fuel ratios at any engine load and any RPM range. It's really, really cool. Could you imagine slapping that technology on an already fuel-efficient engine? Like imagine, for example, an EG rocking a stock D16 and free valve technology. That thing will actually pull carbon from the atmosphere. I think it'd probably be the greenest technology ever. But this video is not about that. This video is about BMW's solution to this issue, which is known as Vanos. Vanos stands for Variable Camshaft Control in English. Now, there have been different iterations of Vanos over the years, starting at the single Vanos, which only controlled the timing of the intake camshaft, to the double Vanos found in the E46 M3, and then later, the double Vanos with a Valvetronic system that can control even more. But for today, we're talking about the double Vanos that's in the S54. Similar to VTEC, the double Vanos system is driven by oil pressure. It allows for the independent control of both the intake and exhaust camshafts timing. So what this means is that the ECU can either advance or delay the timing based on engine needs. So at high RPM, it advances the timing, allowing the engine to inhale and exhale as much as it could need, increasing the top end power. And in the low RPM range, it slightly delays the timing to increase that low end torque. So this is specifically what gives the S54 such a wide power band and makes it such a joy to drive independent of the situation you're in. Today, we're rebuilding mine because mine doesn't look like it's been touched in 20 years and they're known to fail. Some failures more catastrophic than others. It looks like mine's in half decent condition. So we'll rebuild it and ensure it's operating just as it left the factory floor in Munich. Rebuilding a Vanos is really easy, as long as you remember to KISS, which of course means keep it simple, stupid, and not KISS, which you should never do during a Vanos rebuild. In fact, forget KISS. Get KISS completely out of your mind, because we're here to learn about Vanos, which is really easy to remember if you remember to KISS, but not KISS. Never KISS. Now then, Vanos. Bear with me for my German. Variable Nockenwellenstörung. Stupid. You're looking confused, okay? This is really, really easy. V stands for variable. Of course it does. What else could it possibly stand for? A stands for apple. Always has. Nothing we can do about that. Unless it stands for the second letter of variable, which in this case it does, in which case it also means variable. And then NOS, self-explanatory, nitric oxide, which is what it feels like when you have a properly functioning Vanos system. Got it? Cool, easy. My attempt at comedy aside, these things fail for a multitude of reasons. Long oil change intervals really gunk up the engine and clog the Vanos system. Sometimes the seals start to leak and it causes a loss of oil pressure. And since this is driven off of oil pressure, it won't function properly. Sometimes the hardware that holds the cam phasers to the sprockets break. Sometimes the exhaust hubs break. So without further ado, let's get to rebuilding mine. We have replacement parts from Beisan or Beisan. Not sure how to pronounce it. I think it's on their website. I'm just a bad customer. But they're the nicest people in the world. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, but shortly after placing my order, I got a call from the owner and we chatted S54s for about 45 minutes. I don't know very many vendors that would kind of do that with just your average customer. So let's run through what install looks like because I think it's relatively DIY friendly. And with the cash you free up for not having to hire labor to do this for you, we can tuck some of that cash away in our savings for a carbon plenum. At least that's what I hope to do. And at least I'll need a lot of savings for one of those carbon plenums. So we're gonna break this install up into 5 parts. The first being general disassembly and cleaning. The second being investigating the oil disc and showing why the Beisan unit is different and better than the OEM unit. Then we'll address the sealing plate. Then we'll address the Vanos seals. Then we'll address the Vanos solenoid. And 6, I guess, we'll address the anti-rattle kit. Rock and roll, baby. Okay, so this is the Vanos unit once it's been removed from the engine. As you can see, mine is very, very grimy. But what we're gonna do now is just quickly take it apart, all the components, including the oil disc and this plunger here. And we'll take off these back caps here and also take out the plungers that are there. Important to know is that all the Beisan Systems kit comes with replacement seals for all of this, including a brand new oil pump disc, and we'll do a quick comparison once we get this one out. So in the meantime, let's rock and roll. These aren't the best snap ring pliers in the world, but it doesn't even matter. One, 2, 3, 4. And we'll pull out the caps that are in here. Okay, normally you kind of do these one at a time, but what I want to do is take it all apart, take all the seals off, both the inside of this and on these, and then just toss everything in for a nice bath. When we come to put it back together, it's all nice and clean. So, a lot of these are rubber seals underneath Teflon seals. So you'll need a pick and some sort of scalpel, and we'll kind of just try and rotate the rubber ones out. Oh, it's hard. Okay. So on the Teflon ones, you kind of just want to put a nick in it. Now, there are some in here, so it's gonna be tough to see, but I do want to get those ones out. Two picks. That's what you need. More picks. There you go. Actually wasn't. Oh, it's only half. I ripped it. Okay, that's okay. That's a circle. That's a seal. Boom! Got it. Confirming. Removed, removed, removed. 1, 2, 3. Caps. Ring. 4, 4, 4. Bang, bang. Okay. In the bath it goes. You've seen me do this before. You'll see me do it again. It's not the most entertaining thing in the world, but it cleans everything up really nice, so I can't complain too much. This takes a hot 30 minutes to an hour. But for you, it's only gonna be a few seconds.
If you're a DIY enthusiast, you must pick up an ultrasonic cleaner. I mean, look at it. It looks brand new. Look at it! What's wrong with the OEM oil disc? Well, the holes are machined to be 1 mil bigger than the tabs on the exhaust hub. This play in the system causes the exhaust hubs to shear off, end up in your oil pan, and make the engine go kaboom. In the new Beisan unit, they machine the holes to tighter tolerances. You can see the amount of play drastically reduced with the new unit.
OEM, play, 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 no bueno. But if you pop it in the Beisan holes, absolutely nothing.
This will prevent the exhaust tabs from shearing off in the future and will really bulletproof the Vanos system. Putting these springs back in the oil disc proved to be a great challenge. All 4 springs need to simultaneously be pressed in and then put into the ring. As you can see, I had some trouble.
That's the...
We had some highs We had some lows.
No fucking way, no 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 way. Are you shitting me? No fucking way.
And even when I thought I conquered it, I was wrong. But ultimately, I won.
That's how you do it. Bang, 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 bang.
Fortunately for everyone, the ceiling plate seals are much easier. Simply carve out the old ones, match up the new ones to their respective sizes, and pop them in. These get sandwiched between the Vanos solenoid and the Vanos unit itself, so there's no risk of them slipping away anywhere. This is what's included in the Vanos seals repair kit. For these pistons, the Teflon seal is bigger than the rubber seal, so it sits on top of it in each of the grooves. There is a single example where the Teflon seal is smaller than the rubber seal, and that's how you know it's the one that goes inside the unit. And the exhaust piston has 2 spots for the seals, one bigger, one smaller. You can't miss. Okay, so while the seals for the pistons are heating up, so the Teflon becomes a little bit more workable, we're gonna move them off to the side and we'll just knock out the easy ones. And you know, just O-rings. It's pretty self-explanatory. Just roll these bad boys on. Hot start. Just roll it on, minimal stretch. Nice. Cool, done. Too easy. I say now before I have to do the hard ones. We put the zip tie on one Teflon seal and then popped the pistons back into their housings backwards. And we do this so that the Teflon seals can regain their shape and everything goes in much smoother and you don't have the risk of pinching one of the seals. So after about a minute, we pulled these bad boys out, reassess the seals, and if all looks good, we'll hit them with some motor oil and slide them back to their forever homes. We got the strongest magnets we could find, and we popped that on the Vanos solenoids on the valve bodies. And this will open up the pathways and allows us to flush it clean with some brake cleaner. Nothing like brake cleaner in an enclosed space. Sky's the limit. While the anti-rattle kit is not necessarily a maintenance item, the Vanos is known to get a little noisy. Beisan sells this kit. It allows you to open up the units, replace it with materials that have a tighter tolerance, and that'll eliminate a lot of the noise you hear when it's running. You want to hit everything with some brake clean and make sure it's nice and free of contamination. You put this together, you torque it down to 40.5 foot-pounds, and then you assess the amount of play. If it binds in any way, then you have to reopen it and give it a quick sand to make sure that it's not binding. But if everything rolls smoothly and there's no axial play, then you're good to go. Open it back up, toss on some thread locker, torque it back down, bada bing, bada boom, you're good as new. Yep, no bind, good to go. Open it back up, put on some thread locker, torque it back down, and it's never gonna get opened again. This is what you want to see. Nice rotation, no binding in any place, and then no axial play, meaning I can't push it in or pull it out. This is what you don't want to see, be a socket slipping and snapping off the shaft of the unit. Thankfully, Beisan has replacement ones because there are more people out there that are just like me. And that's it, a fully rebuilt and bulletproof Vanos unit. If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe. For a small channel like me, it goes a long way. And this way, you can keep tabs on the M3 touring build. We've got a lot more in store. The next time you see this car, we are building the engine.